Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well. So in this video, I'm going to show you my favorite way of actually recruiting at the moment. So typically what most people teach or show, or the general consensus on how to run a recruitment agency, is you solicit clients, you email clients, you cold call clients, and you ask them if you can help them recruit, and then you go to market and try and find a candidate. I, for one, for the last 2-3 years, have found that a pretty backwards approach, and it just leaves a bad taste in the client's mouth when you're spamming them all day. So I prefer this method. I prefer to work with a candidate first and approach companies that are willing to work with me. I will show you a more in-depth version later on in the video, but for this I'm going to show you a very simplistic way to actually do it, and you'll probably prefer it rather than the cold calling approach. So this is how to make a placement without a client, is how I'm going to put it, and that's the way I've always described it. So you've got two options. Number one is, I'll tell you the method. You get a candidate first and you approach companies. That's what we're going to do. So you go with value rather than empty promises, regardless of if you can or can't. Because no matter how good a recruiter you are, you actually don't know if you can actually recruit for that position unless you've got a candidate. You could be the best recruiter, the best agency, but you don't never actually know, and you might even lose to someone less experienced. I've lost many placements to junior recruiters that have been in the game for a few weeks. You know what I mean? So it's no difference. So you've got two options. Number one is, how do we get a candidate, and how do we find the companies, and what do we send them? So I'm going to show you all of that. Without rambling on, let's get into it. So I'm on X-ray search on, we're going to search on LinkedIn, or you advertise the position on Indeed. So you can make a free employer account on Indeed. You can also use my free advertising website, which is Hunter.io. I'll leave the link in the description so you can check those out. Also, we can go over to LinkedIn. So for the purpose of this video, I've got an old CV I've dug up, and we're looking for a German customer service advisor. So we're going to open that up and we're going to find people to contact. And you could generally be messaging people. Chances are there are actually people on your LinkedIn that you can actually get in touch with already if you've been connecting. Like I always mention, always connect with people. So you might have a fantastic candidate and you might actually think, oh, I wish I could find a job for this person. Oh, they don't fit my role, or the salary's too low. You should be contacting these people and speaking to them. So have a quick look. Connect with this person by all means. I might actually connect. It's not in it's my old industry, but she looks absolutely fantastic CV wise. Even though I could place her if she wanted a job very easily. I'm not sure on the location, but you would know in your sector if the location's good, etc. So that's the basic method. Connect with people, have a conversation, let them speak. When you talk to these candidates, you are not trying to sell a position. You're letting them speak. What is it you're looking for? If, oh, I'm not really looking, but if something came on the market and it was above your salary, closer to home, would you want a call from me? Yes, I would, etc. So have a conversation. 9 times out of 10, most people recruit and they, spam messages to candidates to say, I've got this fantastic role, would you be interested? And they might actually say, the common question that I get is, oh, do you actually have a position open? I say, look, I work a little bit differently. I'd rather find something that's you're looking for rather than give you a position. And people respect that. But sometimes people come across and say, yeah, we've got loads of positions, and it just seems disingenuous. So when you talk to a candidate, make sure you say, I work differently. I like to work with the candidate first and find them the ideal position rather than, forcing you into a position you probably don't want to do. And you'll get a lot of respect. The game in the recruitment sector at the moment is to be different and be a good recruiter, of course. So the other option is advertise the position. I don't find it as effective. I find you can sit on LinkedIn all day, message a few people. You can do this part-time on your mobile phone rather than actually looking out into the market, advertising, buying all this software. This is probably the best way. So let's say this candidate came back to me. I've got her CV now. Yeah? So I've got a CV. And I would tidy it up. The first thing I would do is change the candidate's name, take off all the information. I would go as far as to take out the company's name. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to leave it in. I know Concentrics are a really good company. They were an old client of mine. That is actually in Scotland, I believe, the Adobe branch. And I'm not sure of these guys, Polish company. So this candidate is a very poor CV. We've got spelling errors, we've got, grammatical errors. It would need a lot of work. But let's say we tidied up the CV, or we sent something to the candidate and said, look, tidy up your CV. Let's say this is good to go. Just an example. And even all of these I would take off. I would take off primary. I'll just put the last qualification. That's what I like to put in, because everyone's went to school, basically. So no one needs to know that. So we've got this candidate, we've got this CV, and we've had a conversation with them. And they said, yeah, if you find anything 30,000 in London, I'm just plucking it out of thin air, you can obviously have a discussion with me. So what I would do then is I would go over to German customer service, and let's say in London. Yeah. And we would go over and we would try and find a position suitable for this candidate. Let's say they wanted a promotion, so as customer success manager. We could put them for that, or we could go for these ones. Yeah. And now is the part where we're going to go to, let's say, I mean, I'm not familiar with these companies, but let's go Ink Global. I'm not sure if they're an agency. Let's have a look. We're going to LinkedIn and we'll type in HR. Probably not the best. Let's see if they're working at the right company. Doesn't seem like it. So we can go and find who we're going to contact, and we're going to use like Apollo IO, and we're going to find their email address, and we're going to send them not the CV. We're going to tell them we've got a fantastic candidate that suit the role. So it takes a little bit of time. Talent manager, let's go for her. Let's grab her CV or her. We'll either use Lead Leap or Apollo IO. And let's see what we can find. If we do get an email address, if not, we'll just do first name, surname. So there isn't an email address, but we'll get it from somewhere else. Let's say we have it, and for the purpose of the video, we'll just type her email address in there, and subject we're going to call it. What was her job advertised? German-speaking media sales. Obviously, this position isn't. That person's probably not interested in a German-speaking media sales position, but media sales job. Okay, so I would put in hello and then first name. Yeah. The first name. You can either put in hope you're well, or I usually put now, sorry to disturb you. And now people will say to me, that's silly, how can you put that in an email? You've dropped your status below the client and you're calling them sir and miss. I don't care. I put it in. I think it sounds great. And I get more response from it, believe it or not. So, sorry to disturb you. But I couldn't help but notice, this is my general pitch, couldn't help but notice. And the important thing is to keep this email short and sweet. They haven't got time to read about my agency. I've been established for 4 years. I've done this, that. I work with this client. No one cares. I'm literally going to say to them, couldn't help but notice you're recruiting for a German-speaking sales exec position, and I am currently working with a candidate that has, and I'm just going to bullet point so they know. Yeah, so we look at the CV. We go that is a native German speaker. Sorry, this video is a bit silly, but German speaker. I'll leave this. The important thing is you want to put 3 or 4 bullet points that kind of sell the candidate. Native speaker, currently open to new roles. Open to new roles. Worked at, obviously I'll put capital letters, but worked at a major corp. And whatever skill set they're looking for in their job ad, you'd spend time reading it. They've got 4 years. Let's say they've got 4 years 4 years media sales experience. Yeah. If you put something like that and they're actually looking, I know how hard these positions are to recruit for. You would probably get. Would you be interested in discussing this further? You put something blasé on that at the end. But that's pretty much what you would send to the candidate. Do not send the candidate's CV out to the client. This breaches GDPR unless you've got permission. Also, they could very, very easily find the candidate. So if I left a job on there and it said Concentrics, I could look who's still working there in that location with, the other previous job in there. You could probably find out who it is, contact them yourself, and you've lost your fee. Yeah, you lose control of the situation. So it's important to have that as a position of, if they're interested, come back and we can discuss the CV. 9 times out of 10, they'll come back and say, yeah, I'd be interested in having a look at the CV. I always send the CV attached with our terms of business so they know the position I'm in. This is what I charge, this is the candidate, and I'll really anonymize it depending on the candidate. So I would definitely take off Concentrics. They can come back and ask, I will say in the email, I've redacted personal information just based on, I'll be happy to, anonymize it after we've signed our terms if they do question it. But again, they're not so much interested in the CV, they're more interested in what the candidate has to offer. This is the part where you sell the candidate. This is just, your opening line. If you can put 3 or 4 bullet points, because it's easy to read, if you kind of sell it, like if I'm recruiting for that position, I know that's very hard to find. 4 years media sales. So make sure when you speak to the candidate, it's more along, if you're talking to a salesperson, you want to ask them, what was your biggest sale? And you write that in. I ask questions that I'm in the back of my mind. I've got my bullet points ready. Yeah, I know it sounds silly, but if someone says, "Yeah, I closed a £2 million deal," I'll be like, "Yeah, great." It's a construction deal. I've just messaged a construction company. He works in sales and construction, and I say to him, "Look, this guy closed £2 million deal last year. Blah blah blah. He has, he averages 200 calls a day. Whatever." You'd sell it. You've got to keep in mind what the client wants and what they're looking for, and you know how hard these positions are to recruit for. So I hope this video has been somewhat helpful. It's been a bit of a messy ramble on, but I hope you get the gist of it because this method genuinely works. So take care.